Joining us now, the NFL Network draft analyst who was very busy on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Also, NFL on CBS game analyst and the Madden NFL game commentator. It is one Charles Davis, kind enough to join us here. Have you rested up? Did you get a good night's sleep on Sunday? You're all fresh as a daisy here on Monday now, Charles?
Hey, guys, how you doing? Listen, no one cares if you're tired or what have you. You guys know in the sports business, the first time you complain about being tired or whatever, all the people who are listening to us, they roll their eyes.
Yeah.
And then they tell us that we're all too soft, right? Because they're out there making it, each and every day. And it's like a friend of mine always says, we're not breaking rocks. So it doesn't matter whether I'm tired or not. Let's go.
Congratulations, though. You got like 12 out of the first 32 picks right, the first round right. That's
killed it in your mock draft.
You did. You killed it in the mock. That's hard to do, right? Did you get caught by any trades unaware? I mean, tell us about how that happened, because getting 12 picks right with all the uncertainty is really something to be said for that.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Steve. I appreciate it. I think, look, bottom line is when we're talking about 12 picks right, we're talking about I was fortunate enough to get 12 guys going to that team that picked them.
Right.
Another way to look at it is how many guys did you have in the first round that went in the first round? You know what I mean? Like we have 32 names. If you're getting, 25 of those right, because there are going to be some surprises. Let's face it, Alex Leatherwood to Las Vegas in the first round. I have not seen a mock anywhere that had that.
Right.
Peyton Turner, the defensive end from Houston, going to New Orleans. If you guys saw a mock that had Peyton Turner in the first round, let me know. Doesn't mean they're not first-round players, because that has to be proven out. But for all of us who are trying to predict what teams are doing,
we all do it.
Now, where I got lucky, Steve, and I'll leave it with this, and a lot of it is you have to be fortunate that teams kind of stick or whatever. A number of our colleagues, Chris and Steve, as we know, they will do mocks that have trades, proposed trades. This team trades here, and it makes sense because, we're all trying to do things that make sense. I never do trades, and it's just a personal thing. I don't think I have enough brain power to figure out all that stuff, so I just stick where they are. And because I didn't do a trade, because I would have said New England trades up to get a quarterback. Who that would have been if I had traded, who knows? But when I stuck at 15, Mac Jones made sense. And so the board fell to me, as we like to say,
right?
Because they didn't have to make that trade. So, again, that's why I say a lot of it is just being fortunate. And look, at 14, when Minnesota traded out and the Jets traded back, I had, I believe, Elijah Vera Tucker, the guard from USC, tackle, going to Minnesota. But instead, he hit the right spot going to the Jets. So, again, there's some serendipity to it. There's some being fortunate. And there are years where some really good evaluators, the league just may flip on its head, and all of a sudden you've got, 3 right. And I've been in many of those years.
Right.
So, Charles, with respect to Mac Jones and Zach Wilson, Steve and I were just talking about this, as it pertains to the Bills. We live in Bills myopia here. So just put your Bills hat on for a second. As a Bills fan, knowing that there was a strong likelihood that both the Jets and the Patriots were going to end up with somebody from this quarterback class, particularly in round 1, I think from an elite athletic traits standpoint, you probably did as good as you were going to do as a Bills fan in hoping that the balance of power wasn't dramatically shifted by the quarterbacks that are now entering this division based on the pool that was sitting there in round 1. How does that grab you?
Yeah, I think I understand where you're going there. And let's start with, because I heard you say elite athletic traits, so that means I'm going to start with Mac Jones, because out of the 5, he would be the 5th when we talk about elite athletic traits. Out of the 5 quarterbacks, we all ranked at the top of the board, and that's exactly how it came to be. Because once San Francisco didn't take Mac Jones at 3, as was widely rumored, it fell the way that I would say the general consensus, which is Mac Jones was 5th out of those 5. It hit, right? The other 4 went ahead of him. He won't be the guy you deal with right away, I don't believe. I think you're still dealing with Cam Newton to begin things. How the season progresses, we shall see. It's rare that a quarterback in the first round doesn't play at some point in his rookie season. And as we've seen as a general rule, it's usually sooner rather than later, even though they always talk about, well, let's give this guy some time. And then I always laugh. Time is like 2 weeks. And when that happens, I always ask the general manager, what took you so long? I mean, if you were going to play him, why just play him from day one? You wasted 2 weeks. But,
right.
you know, Patrick Mahomes sitting behind Alex Smith, we will rarely see that happen again. So let's see how long it takes. But to begin with, I'm pretty confident the Patriots are counting on Cam to be the starter and Mac Jones to come in from there. But again, we'll see how the season breaks down. But if you're talking about elite athletic traits, Zach Wilson has all of those things in New York. And I thought the Jets did a really nice job of trying to surround him now. I think going and getting Vera Tucker may not have been that sexy, you know, big play guy. I think a lot of people in the Jets land were saying, go get us the runner, you know, get us an ETN or Najee Harris or someone. If the Jets had stayed at 23, I think it was, that might have been a possibility. But when they moved up to 14, there was no doubt in my mind they were going big. And that's what you do for a young quarterback. You surround him with people who will help him. And Elijah Vera Tucker will do exactly that. I say he plugs right in at one of the guard spots, probably the left guard, to go next to Mekhi Becton and starts day one. And I think that's a heck of a deal for a young quarterback to get that, and coupled with, you know, moves in free agency. Corey Davis coming from Tennessee. Denzel Mims' rookie year was very disjointed. So in a sense, he gets almost a do-over there. And if those guys develop for him, now you've got a chance. You know, you start to get there, but you got big people in front. So, and by the way, we all know you'll deal with Zach Wilson from day one. He's going to be like Joe Burrow. They just hand him the playbook and the ball as soon as they called his name.
That's right. And also in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins, they go out and they get their receiver for Tua, and also an edge rusher in Jalen Phillips. Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips. What did you think about the Jalen Waddle grab there for the Miami Dolphins? Took him ahead of Devontae Smith and some of the other guys available. When you watch it, when you kind of get into it, you can kind of see why. What are your thoughts about the Miami Dolphins? Both the Jets and the Dolphins with a ton of capital in this draft, and they seemed to have a really good plan that they both stuck with.
Yeah, Steve, I think you're right about that, and I love that observation. And let's start with Miami. The reason I think they took Waddle instead of Devontae Smith is if you look at what Miami already has in place, they've got those bigger, stronger receivers, like a Devontae Parker, like a Preston Williams that they're counting on getting full health again. You know, Parker was 2019, was a 1,000-yard guy. That's what they drafted. But they don't have that flat-out blazer because Jakeem Grant is much more of an Inspector Gadget guy. You know what I mean? You can't full-time play him. You try and come up and create plays, scheme things, reverses, jet sweeps, you know, bubble screens. But this guy is a pure, flat-out receiver who can go. And we were talking about, what's the young kid's name? Schwartz, Anthony Schwartz from Auburn.
Yes.
Who was a legit track guy. Because I made the point on the thing, because it's been a pet peeve of mine that we as announcers, and I include myself, every time we see a fast guy, we talk about him having world-class speed, and we're lying. Because world-class speed's a whole different speed. Okay? NFL fast is incredible, right? You put them on a track, they get smoked by legitimate track people. Schwartz is a legitimate track guy. You know what I was told? That Jalen Waddle on the GPS was faster. So that ought to tell you something right there, okay? And we don't talk about Waddle and his track career at Alabama. We just talk about him being that guy. So I think that's why they grabbed him, to just go ahead and try and blow the tops off of defenses. Getting Jalen Phillips at 18, huge. To me, the best pure pass rusher in the draft. The issue for him has been injuries in the past and truly 1 year of major production. Because at UCLA, you guys know he was dinged all the time. And I'm not saying that disparagingly. He just was. You know, there's concussions. Would UCLA clear him again? He had the 1 year with Greg Rousseau opting out. He actually even took Rousseau's number 15 and had a heck of a year. But I thought he was the best pure pass rusher, and to get him at 18 was a big deal. But I think one of their underrated moves was getting Liam Eichenberg, the tackle out of Notre Dame, because getting him at pick number 42 in the second round, they just announced that Robert Hunt was going to be moved from tackle to guard. Perfect. He goes inside. He's a guard with Solomon Kinley. Okay. You got the center now, Skura, who came over from Baltimore. You draft Austin Jackson from USC at left tackle last year. And now you plug in Eichenberg at right tackle. It fits what they were looking for. So I like what they did in their draft. And I know you asked me about the Jets, and let me pull them up real quick because all of it's swimming through my mind. It should be firmly there. Right now, I'm just trying to battle everything else. But we've talked about Wilson and Vera Tucker. Elijah Moore, the wide receiver, is huge. Another slot target for a young quarterback. They're going to need their tight end, Herndon, to play better. He's got to jump up and help the young QB. But I like what they did overall through their draft. And I think one of their underrated guys is the safety out of Auburn, Sherwood, because it'll be interesting to see how they play him, whether they play him at safety or if he's one of those safeties that moves up to linebacker. You remember we started that kind of with Mark Barron?
Yeah.
With that undersized, will linebacker who can play and keep him out of coverage. Jonathan Abram at Las Vegas, he better be thinking about that as well. We're talking about Dallas Keanu Neal. They're talking about doing that with him now. I think Sherwood may fit in there nicely for the Jets that way.
Charles, as we move through the draft, fans, they gravitate to the first and second round picks, understandably so. They're the ones that are getting the most mentions. But maybe to help out Bills fans today with some of the day 3 picks that they made, chiefly Stevenson, Hamlin, and Wild Goose, who all come off the board in round 6 there for the Bills. Yeah. Just give me your thumbnail sketch on what you think about those guys' prospects here at the next level and with this roster.
Well, Stevenson can run, and that sounds stupid when we talk about wide receivers, but you guys know, and Steve can analyze it better than anyone. We're talking about the real flyers, the guys who are the route runners, understand their speed is, the normal NFL speed, and they have to be craftier in what they do in getting open. Stevenson's a guy who can run a little bit. You can see him pulling away right there, so I like him. Hamlin, the DB out of Pittsburgh. Well, last year he did pretty well getting Dane Jackson. I thought he jumped in really well for you. Dane, I saw, is more of a nickel guy, but he acquitted himself well outside. Hamlin's going to have to do the same thing. And Wild Goose, he's better. His name is terrific.
It's fantastic.
But he's better than his name. Just think about it this way. Let's be stereotypical, but we're on target. He's a Big Ten corner, which means what? He's going to tackle some people, okay? I know it's stereotypical, but he will actually tackle some people, and things will be okay that way. Makes nice plays on the football downfield. Underrated for me was your 7th-round pick out of Texas Tech, and that's Jack Anderson, because I know that the Bills are looking for competition across that offensive line, and they had to do a lot of mixing and matching last year to get things right, and they did a great job of it. But I really like what they've done there. And Spencer Brown earlier, I know you wanted these late-round guys. I'm a huge Spencer Brown fan. I made one of those bold statements on Path to the Draft a couple weeks ago that Spencer Brown from Northern Iowa and Ellerson Smith from Northern Iowa, offensive tackle, defensive end, would both start 10 or more games their rookie years.
Wow.
Now, I don't expect that as much now because of where Spencer Brown went, because you guys are in great shape at the offensive tackle spot. But if something does happen, I think this kid's going to be a heck of a player, and his growth, and go ahead, let's use the buzzword, his upside is significant. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
It's significant.
That's right.
Yeah. I talked to probably 5 different offensive line coaches, and his name came up independently over all 5, because the one question I asked them all was, name some of these guys you're watching that you would be eager to coach. And his name came up independently with 5 different offensive line coaches in the league without me prompting them.
Wow, that's something else. And Brandon Beane basically said he's essentially the swing tackle day 1 here. Yeah. Somebody gets hurt, he's in.
And by the way, if he gets in, I think it's going to be hard to get him out. I think it's going to be one of those situations that you will see, maybe he'll make a few mistakes for you early because he's young. And you remember he opted out in 2020. He's got a ways to go. But remember, he opted out, hadn't played since 2019, thought about transferring to another program, didn't do it, showed up at the Senior Bowl and had a heck of a Senior Bowl week. That was big how he picked things up there. And I think he's one of those quick study guys that once you get in, you don't want Wally Pipp yourself.
Right,
okay?
that's exactly what I was going to say.
You may have some trouble getting that spot back.
Right,
but I'm not saying that he's going to get it right away. He'll be a swing guy to begin with.
Yeah. one of those guys gets a headache and misses a practice, they may never get it back on the field, right? Yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
you
what I was
better take a
thinking.
couple of Excedrin, very strong, extra strength, and go out there and practice.
What do
That'd
you
be my
think?
advice.
In general, and I know Trevor Lawrence is going to be the headline for whatever we remember about the 2021 draft. What do you think in general, this class? What do you think? What are you going to remember about it? What's going to be its personalities in the next 3 years of these guys? What do you think is going to stand out about it?
And you talk about the quarterback, Steve?
No, I'm talking about even in general, whether it's going to be there were 15 offensive linemen taken in the first 2 rounds of this draft, 5 quarterbacks in the first round, a couple of running, there's a light running back, no defensive tackles really in the first, round. So what do you think we're going to remember about this draft in 3 years?
I think obviously the quarterbacks define it because it was so huge. I mean, we're talking about 5 in the first round, 5 in the first 15 picks. And frankly, we thought it'd be 5 in the first 10 picks because we thought there'd be more activity where someone would come up. But once the Niners didn't take Mac Jones at 3, that's where we all wondered what would the slide, for lack of a better term, be for him. And it really wasn't a slide. He could have gone to a better situation for himself. But we were wondering if New England did the normal, which is not take a quarterback. But then we had to remember they didn't take a quarterback all those years because they had Tom Brady. Why would you take a quarterback in the first round? You just don't do that. That's going to be part of the personality. Steve, you mentioned the offensive linemen and the number that were taken. In most years, what we would say, or I should say in old school football, with all those offensive linemen, you would think a bunch of runners would follow because you're getting bigger, physical, and all that. We're just talking about protecting these QBs. We're making sure they're upright and they can throw the football. The run on running backs came way later. It was actually rounds 4 through 7. We only had 4 running backs go in the first 3 rounds, which was staggeringly stunning to me. But it tells you how we're playing the game nowadays as well. Defensive tackles, we knew that was going to be a struggle for those guys, and it played out that way. They didn't go early. And I think that when you get back to surprises, we talked about Las Vegas, we talked about New Orleans. I think Las Vegas is going to be the most glaring because Alex Leatherwood is going to start at right tackle day 1 for them. Trent Brown went back to New England. He was supposed to be that rock on the right side. They drafted Leatherwood. They had conviction. And as I said on draft night, when a team has conviction, sometimes they don't give a flip what we think. Travis Frederick came to mind with Dallas. You guys remember the night he got drafted. The whole league went, what? You get him in the 2nd or 3rd round.
Right.
Remember when Seattle drafted Bruce Irvin? He's too light. He's too this. He's too that.
Right.
If it fits your scheme, and that's what it does with Las Vegas, because they're going to want to run the ball with John Gruden. But for them to come back in the 2nd round and still get the top safety in the draft, Trayvon Merrick from TCU, who I thought they should have grabbed at 17, they may have the last laugh on us when it's all said and done.
Charles, with respect to Buffalo's top 2 picks, with Rousseau and Boogie Basham,
yes,
playing off your comment about scheme, we know this is a heavy rotational system here with Leslie Frazier as far as his front 4 goes. I mean, they rotate all the time. It's a big number if one of their starters plays 55% of the snaps in a given game. So with that in mind, how much do you expect to see Rousseau and Basham on the field for this team as rookies?
One of them will have to emerge as the guy in terms of when you go, quote unquote, NASCAR set, meaning on the defensive front, when we get into those sub and nickel packages and we want to rush the passer, because now you're chasing second and third reaction quarterbacks in your own division, meaning, Cam just wrestling him to the ground. He may not be as much a second, third reaction as more like Big Ben in his prime, where he just shakes you off and still makes a play. But Cam can now still hoof it too. But when you talk about Tua in Miami, and now you're adding Zach Wilson, those are second and third reaction quarterbacks. So what I mean by one of them having to emerge, because I don't see Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison wanting to give up snaps to rush the quarterback, okay? Right. They're still able to get that done. Does Ed Oliver stay on the field as your inside presence? And does he up his game to what we expect Ed Oliver to be? We saw flashes, but we didn't see the consistency, in my opinion. I think that if he does that, then you add one more of these guys as one of your pass rushers for 4 and go get them. Now, if you really want to do something, you can put 5 on the field and have one of them act like a stand-up linebacker. And to me, Rousseau is much more that guy because of his ability in past as a wide receiver safety, his ability to stay on his feet and play that way. Boogie Basham's more of your power forward, tight end type of a kid that came in and played. I think he's a little bit thicker and stouter than Rousseau is that way. We shall see. But Boogie Basham, he had dreams of being a power forward in the NBA. He learned as he went to Wake Forest. It's kind of the old coach pulls you aside and says, son, I know you want to play that basketball, but I have a question for you. When you're an adult, you want to drive a Hyundai or you want to drive a Mercedes?
Right.
If you want to drive a Mercedes, you put your hand in the ground, go rush the passer. And that's what Boogie Basham did.
Yeah. It's good advice.
One last thing, because I know you guys have a lot of fun because the days get long sitting on the set there. But my God, did anybody steal the show better than the Macho Man? My goodness.
Macho fan from Cleveland. Yeah, he was big time. And the best part about him was when the commish came out. This is just my own opinion. When the commissioner came out, he shook the commissioner's hand and then kind of gave him the wave to the microphone instead of taking him and dropping a big elbow on him like I thought he might do. I thought he might jump on the commissioner's chair and come off the chair and hit him with the big elbow like the immortal rest in peace Randy the Macho Man Savage did. But as I told everyone, yeah, the Macho Man was great in the ring, but I thought he was terrific as Bonesaw McGraw in the Spider-Man movie. I mean, he was awesome. And when he grabbed the mic and the guy said, is anybody ready to take on Bonesaw? And he grabbed the mic and said, Bonesaw is ready. I always loved that one.
I just loved how you guys started busting out all the 80s wrestling references once you saw him. I mean, everybody was getting in on it.
Hey, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago in Philadelphia, Bruno Sammartino made a pick for the Steelers.
Oh, wow.
We still had Bruno.
I missed that.
And I lost my mind. I was like, Bruno Sammartino. The guy held the heavyweight title in the WWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, before they had to change the name. And he held it for about 8,000 years until his protege, Larry Zbyszko, turned heel on him.
Wow.
Attacked him in the ring.
Bringing out the old wrestling knowledge.
You are the best, man. That is awesome.
It was fun watching you guys over the weekend. Thanks for doing what you do, Charles, and thanks for giving us some time here. We appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We'll see you soon.
See you, man.
That's Charles Davis.
Good, guys.